going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check. This is a special edition of the State of Wrestling, and that is Jake fucking DeMarco. What's going on, buddy?
I can't believe it. 3 weeks of vignettes, week after week, we see that the masked man Bandito is returning.
Oh no!
Just a crash and burn. Is there anything that sums up? I know it's Ring of Honor, but AEW's year as well as that
we don't need to pretend that ROH is its own thing.
Really forget everything else that we're discussing today. Forget the top fives of what we want for 2025. I just had to derail us so quickly because I never want to see anybody get hurt. Yeah. But my God, Bandito has had all of these crazy vignettes for weeks now where he's this
They were actually doing something cool.
Yeah, and they're giving him a chance, and they put this effort behind him and making his return a big to do. And he runs out, he does one drop kick, lands on his head, and that is all she wrote, folks. I'm sorry, but that sums up AEW year.
But here's the thing,
exponentially well.
I kind of do feel bad. You're not going to believe this. I'm totally genuine. I'm totally seriously when I say this. I kind of feel bad for AEW in this sense. You know why? Because of all the different characters, we make fun. They got aliens and dinosaurs and people fighting in orange juice and the Bucks still
holograms.
think there's but the one thing that AEW was really, really missing, and I think the one thing that could actually save this company would be if they had a really good cowboy.
Oh, I thought you were going to say if they had a mentally handicapped luchador, but I was like, they got those in spades.
I just think they could use a cowboy. I don't think they've ever tried it. Maybe something's escaping my mind. Anyways, enough of that. We're on to some fun. We're going to start off with a cheap plug for your channel. Go back over to Jake's channel or go over to my audio platforms. We sort of capped off the year with our best and worst of what's happened in WWE over the past year. It was a lot of fun. Thanks once again for hosting that. We did some good stuff. Thank you to those of us that joined us in the chat over on Jake's channel as well. Now we flip the coin. Now we're throwing our coins in the wishing well, and we're making 5 wishes for what we want to see in mostly WWE. I've got one TNA exception. What we want to see for next year. So we're kind of operating on a limited schedule tonight because, Jake, you got to go and do Jake stuff.
Yeah, I got to live life. But
I'm going to go throw it to you right away. What's your number one?
You know what? Are we going in reverse order? So we're going from
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I would assume.
Yes. Okay. So I'll give you the least first, but it sounds pretty simple, very straightforward. You and I kind of had no parameters set for my list of favorites of the years.
Mine are super vague again. So.
Yeah, so
what do you want to see?
Here's what we know for this year already. We got Saturday night's main event happening. We've got the Royal Rumble, the Elimination Chamber, WrestleMania, and SummerSlam. Those are the confirmed shows. Yep. You're going to the Chamber. We know it's going to be good.
Apparently they've all but confirmed PLE in Mexico as well, but they haven't confirmed what PLE it's going to be.
Yeah, so
that's kind of cool.
I know that will happen eventually. I've heard the rumblings for that, but I'm just kind of keeping that as a unconfirmed still rumor. So now that we know what's going on there, I genuinely am hoping that not only do we get more PLEs this year, like main event, like, things not just pay-per-view-esque, but I hope that we get more matches and longer shows. Hey. So my prediction and hope for 2025 is that we get even more events and longer events. Not just because it's going to be a 2-night event either for some of these things, like SummerSlam, but I want to see certain shows need to be longer. A main event, 2 hours, perfect. But when we had, Survivor Series cut into a tight 3-hour format, it's like, that could have gone an extra half hour. We could have had a match or two added on there that would have been good to have.
Absolutely. You're definitely piggybacking off of one of my negatives from our stream over on your side, that Triple H took the criticism a little bit too far when they said the shows were too long. I have to acknowledge that I'm in a bubble. I don't care if WrestleMania ends the next morning. I really don't. I'm going to kind of cheat a little bit because where you're general, I'm a little bit more specific, and I'm going to hop down to one of the few that I've got on my list that's actually specific. Yeah. I do want longer shows. I do want A little more flexibility in the length of the shows. Like I said, I'm going to repeat a lot of what I said on your stream now, but some of the sillier, less consequential stuff I would have a lot more time for if the other important stuff that I wanted to see wasn't being bumped. So don't get rid of the silly thing to put my serious thing on there. Put them both on there, and then I'll enjoy the silly thing. You touched on it. You touched on it. They've hinted at SummerSlam and possibly Survivor Series and a couple of other shows moving to the two night format. We know about SummerSlam. We know about WrestleMania. I'm going to be very specific. If you're going to be doing these splits, Rumble has to be one of them. The Rumble is probably, even more than WrestleMania, I would say, the Rumble is the one now because there's the two Rumble matches. It is the one that is built to be a two-night format.
Yeah, no
and
doubt
I will
about
go
it.
Even farther as far as a structuring thing. Whichever, the guys is one night, the girls is the other night. Whichever way you want to do it, whichever one's Saturday, whichever one's Sunday. The night that has the men's Rumble with an all-female undercard, and then the night that has the female Rumble has the entire men undercard, only because you have...
That's a great way to balance and split it. Yeah, because you're getting 30 men, 30 women per night, no matter what, so it's an equal share.
Because it gets rid of the, so-and-so has a match earlier on in the night, I guess that means they're not in the Rumble. Or on the converse side of things, where that's not necessarily true, if somebody's got a grueling singles match and has to participate in the Rumble, which is an entirely different mindset, you're not asking somebody to do those two things in the same night. Like if somebody went in there and, for example, like had a really good grueling Intercontinental Championship match and then had to go play their role in the Rumble, there's a little bit of breathing room, a little bit of whatever.
Exactly.
And you're focusing on both sides of the roster. We talked a lot on your stream about how WWE is kicking ass in all facets of the women's division right now. There's definitely time to put into more exposure for the division, but especially those two new titles that they've just made. Maybe don't necessarily have any of the world titles defended, because all of those are in flux due to the Rumbles. So make the undercards of the two Rumble nights be focus on your tag titles, focus on both of your Intercontinental titles, both of your US titles, and as funny as it sounds, have your biggest names, your world champions, be the ones that sit off, because you got somebody that's got a title shot at the Rumble by just having a shot, and you've got the rest of the roster that are fighting 29 other guys to get a shot. It's always felt a little out of balance.
Exactly.
That anyway.
And when like you said too, it has a real factor too of they wrestled so they can't perform later on, and so you get that expectation out the window. You add a lot of surprise factors. And
I wouldn't necessarily say it every year, but like maybe on the 5 and 10 year anniversary links, like whatever version of the Rumble we're coming up, do it on two separate nights. You can play around with how big the undercard is, and having it on two separate nights means you can say, hey, this year we're going to make it special. It's going to be 35 people instead of 30. Or you can use what I said they should have done a long time ago when the McMahons were still running it and Shane was being a pissant. Wouldn't it be awesome if you had all 30 men in the Rumble, but then the buzzer goes one more time and out comes Shane McMahon with a 31 jersey or something? You can play with the match that takes the most time of the year, other than an Iron Man match, which we haven't seen in forever. It gives you the flexibility to do that without feeling like you're stealing anything from anybody, and just tell people in general that we can play around with time, especially now that we're on net. You didn't really have to worry about it on pay-per-view either, but especially now on Netflix, where all the time restraints are going to be off. Longer pay-per-views, longer pay-per-views in general, the two-night pay-per-views in general. I'm zeroing in super specific. If you're going to do two-night pay-per-views, Rumble has to be one of them.
Yeah, and for overseas PLEs, when they have those again, that's fine to stick to the 5-card match format, especially if it's going to be live at the time that it goes live for us.
Yeah. I'm
even more fine with that. But I want to be able to see, like you said, some of the bigger shows start taking on more matches and becoming a bit more matter consequential,
And you know what I'm going to say? We've talked a lot about the fact that you and I are on the really lucky side of the globe with this. They are doing these international shows. The international markets are loving it and whatever. You know what? You got to go whole hog at some point. UK, Australia, maybe go to Japan, wherever you want to go. Give them one of the big fours.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to see. I know it probably won't be Mania, but I want to see how something as big as SummerSlam or as big as the Rumble lands in a UK crowd, an Australia crowd, in a Paris crowd.
Even in a Japan setting too, like you
in the
said,
Japan setting we haven't done
crazy.
We haven't done a PLE in Japan since Beast in the East.
Yeah, with Lesnar taking on all 3 members of the New Day,
and we even had some.
It's funny how that
NXT
stands
on that
out.
Show.
Yeah,
I think that was one
Finn
of the first.
Balor and
Kevin Owens,
Samoa Joe.
Oh, was it Samoa Joe?
I think that
was that the you might be able to correct me on this one. Was that the first WWE PLE that had NXT participation?
I believe so. I think it was.
But I'm just thinking, like, yeah, Triple H used it to.
And NXT was cooking at that time.
Fantastic,
so.
Yeah. But I'm just thinking, like, Triple H has used Paris as the competitive mark for all the other international audiences. Are you guys going to be as loud as Paris? Da 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 da. So take an audience like Paris, or an audience like Australia, or an audience like the UK that are always really, really, really raucous, giving us all the pops, and give them the pay-per-view that's designed for pops. Put the Rumble in Paris.
Yeah, give them a reason to scream.
Oh my God! You know what the ultimate win would be, and it would be awesome, especially if they did it over 2 nights. Imagine 2 nights Rumble in Wembley Stadium.
Oh my God!
It would be such a fucking win.
Time?
It would be.
I mean,
such a
think what All
win.
In did, and then multiply that by good feelings.
Yeah, and now they're in a place in Texas that only has like 20,000 seats sold. It's already been outsold by Elimination Chamber, and I'm going to be there. I helped. So we kind of put in your first one and my first one as one combined topic. So I'm going to throw it back to you.
Yeah, so you and I have been kind of on the same wavelength here, and I think you'll see where I'm going with this. So number 4, I want to see NXT really focus hard around their new men's division.
Mm-hmm.
They need to put Trick and take him out and throw him to pasture. You know, it's been quite a long time that he's been in this top spot, and he doesn't need to be doing this constantly as a champion. You know, he doesn't need the title.
He's going up soon, I think.
That's the hope. That's the thought. But they don't really have anybody ready-made. Maybe Obafemi, but there really isn't anyone like, oh, I know they're earmarked to be the next contender, the next champion. So I really want to see them build around 2 people. I want to see the North American title be chased for and given to Javon Evans.
There you go.
And I want to see the main title be built around Wes Lee.
Ooh.
Wes Lee, we know how he did with the North American title. We know he can do a single titles run. We've seen the heel turn. We know he can be compelling. He just needs to be a dick to people that we like. If he's on somebody that we care about, oh, it's on like Donkey Kong. I'm telling you, because he's got that heel thing down. He knows how to make the audience upset and care.
And see, it's funny for me that you put it, because I would picture the North American Championship being back on him and Javon Evans ultimately winning it from him. I think if you put the NXT World Title on Wes Lee, I think that's the heel that Joe Hendry wins it off of.
Right.
When
exactly.
he comes over. I mean, if he's even actually coming to NXT, I don't know. Maybe he might go.
It seems like he might go to NXT still. It just wouldn't be there long, but he would get a great reception, so it wouldn't be the worst idea to have him just earmarked for there again.
Yeah, that's great. And the other... So you've got the 2 singles titles there. The other is the tag division, which they've really tried to put a boot up the ass of the tag division in December.
Exactly.
I got to give them a lot of credit for that. It seems like they're on a good pace. Like they've got a couple really fun teams there. They got the Hank and Tanks, and now that the family would be represented by Stax and Crucifino instead of Stax and Tony D. You got Gallus in there that everybody else shits on, and I still don't get it. You got the Good Brothers that are there sometimes.
Sometimes
you
when they decide to show
Fraxium that are still somehow champions. Hey, they're getting all kinds of plaudits. Both What Culture and Sports Illustrated gave them Tag Team of the Year.
Which is so deserved.
Absolutely fantastic, yeah.
All of the defenses that they put through to make them successful champions, and you're talking about a lot of matches that have happened this year that
especially when the whole story is they're kind of a dysfunctional team.
Yes, and every time you're waiting for them to break up with each other. So the tag team division was focused on well.
I think they've taken it over the hill with that, whereas like they are at their best when they're arguing with each other.
Yes, so it's
I don't think it's a breakup thing anymore.
No, they're just going to kill each other while they successfully
But I think it's kind of
defend
cool
the title.
when you think about WWE's history with tag teams, and when you think of within WWE how much attention NXT actually gets. There's 3 or 4 victories in a row there with them getting the recognition in multiple places, especially when you got an outfit like What Culture, who we like.
Yeah.
But they skew heavily AEW.
They
sometimes.
always do.
Not
usually it
depending
is
on who's writing it. If it's Sidge or Murray, then yeah. If it's the Fed heads, maybe we get a shot. I would love to see, like, there's the rumors about Josh Alexander that we could get into at another time, but if we reunite the North, that would be enough.
I mean, think about it. He said, I lost my way.
Yep.
What other way is there? Now he's being this dastardly evil heel that destroyed the teeth of Javon Evans in one of the goriest, yet you could tell it was contrived in the sense that it was set up and fake and it wasn't real blood and all that, but did it matter? No, it was actually like, oh my God, it was intense, it was jarring.
And meanwhile, in TNA, you've got Josh Alexander, who sort of had a heel turn.
Yeah.
I don't want to say out of nowhere, but one that I kind of questioned because I've only ever watched TNA / been at Destiny, check it off your Spaz Phoenix bucket list, it's fine, where he's been like the heart and soul of either Destiny or TNA, and I was excited to see what it's kind of like the New Day turn in a different way, but I was really excited to see what Josh Alexander could be as a heel. And
think about what he did to Macklin and others.
All he does is just become an asshole who can legitimately beat the shit out of people by himself and still gets back up anyway with Sinner and Saint.
Yeah, exactly. So you can kick ass on your own, and it makes sense.
So
how is that not a good thing?
He leaves them the torch of being the heel tag team in TNA, possibly moves over to NXT. I don't want to put too much weight in rumors because there's all kinds of jump rumors that we could get into. If he brings Jade Chung with him to be the new announcer for NXT, I would pop because I've met her and she's a sweetheart.
That would be a great duo. That's a very good choice.
Apparently, she's only ever managed him once, but I mean, in a new set of circumstances. Jade Chung managing the North in NXT would be
incredible.
Fantastic.
Yeah, top level. I'm absolutely all about that.
But yeah, no, like I think I mentioned it. It was on your stream. The ladies are kicking ass, and what happens? Not that the guys have fallen down, just the guys have got to keep up.
Yeah, exactly,
thing,
and
right?
they haven't really focused on anyone outside of the NXT champion Trick and whoever he's feuding with. Ridge Holland got elevated.
Well, they haven't had an infusion, right? Like we talked about the Raw tag division compared to SmackDown, and it wasn't really that fair because NXT had the infusion of Motor City Machine Guns. It was a brand new thing. In NXT, they did a lot of crossover with TNA, with like the Joe Hendrys and the Rascals and all that kind of thing. But the infusions that were here to stay were the ones that we've been talking about: Stephanie Vacour and Julia and Zarya.
Exactly.
Like, it's the roster that's had the most infusion. Like I said, like if the tag team division had gotten either the Lucha Brothers, like if Tony Khan wasn't being a cunt, or if the Motor City Machine Guns had taken a detour from the Motor City to Florida. Yep, that was a very labored metaphor. Like the tag team division,
I knew what you meant. It works.
Would have had, but the tag team division would have had a headline. Right now the ladies have a headline, and the guys have just had to be solid, which is absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong. We said it the other night. There's nothing wrong with the ladies being on top. Sometimes we like it that way.
We had Ego doing great work as a heel for a while, taking on Hendry and all challengers, so that was always enjoyable.
Busting open Javon's face.
Well, I'm saying now, but up until now, when he had the title, lost the title, got it back, lost it, all that stuff. You know, we've seen different.
It's funny because
shades of greatness from him.
With him, he had a turn, but he didn't go from face to heel. But he went from kind of like goofy heel to serious heel.
Yes.
Which still feels like a turn.
It still feels like enough of a change to warrant us bringing it up.
The guys, I'm sure, I'm sure the guys are going to keep it up and keep it solid, and maybe we get a couple more infusion of new people. If NXT next year managed to, for lack of a better term, to draft Joe Hendry and Josh Alexander, I don't think the guys are going to be in bad shape.
No, certainly not. Not with what they're working towards at this point.
All right, so I'm going to, now that we've sort of hummed and hawed around the topic of TNA, here's my one TNA wish for next year, and it's already kind of happening. I just hope it keeps happening.
Okay.
They announced it for Slammiversary. They announced it for, I think, Bound for Glory as well. They're moving from smaller venues to actual arenas.
Yes.
I think it's the UBC Arena is hosting Slammiversary. For anybody listening, it's the venue that hosted one of the Forbidden Doors. They've already broken the 2,000-seater mark, which, I mean, 2,000 is what it is, but for TNA and
that's incredible.
For their attempt in a big building like that, that's fantastic. I hope it takes off, and it's one of those step-by-step, okay, we filled this arena, let's try to do it one more time. We filled those two arenas, let's try it one more time.
They know what they're aiming for. They know what they're working towards. It's not unreasonable. It's not an excessive amount where, you're not selling a 100,000-seat arena and then renting and then selling 1,000 seats. They know what they're doing, and they're adding shows on slowly in the right possible way, and they're building up their fans by putting on great show after great show after great show. People
and I
care.
will say, because there's a structure to the conversation, and once again, yes, I take a lot of digs at AEW. I'm going to try and say this in a way that doesn't dig at AEW too much. WWE's number one, AEW is a distant second, and TNA is third as far as, what would you say, North American mainstream pro wrestling?
Yeah, that seems to be more the fit for it.
I'm just thinking if TNA is moving from smaller venues to big arenas and AEW is going the other way, does TNA, after 20-some-odd years of grinding, actually grab that number 2 spot?
Yeah, no kidding. So
that
might elevate them enough to make it matter.
Good a time as any to stick in. They announced just yesterday that they've made a TV deal with Sportsnet 360. I think we might have already mentioned it. Sportsnet 360 is what has carried up until this point everything Raw, SmackDown, NXT. They carried Level Up for a little bit. They're losing everything because Canada is moving everything to Netflix all at once, Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and PLEs. So taking the wrestling slot on Sportsnet 360, for those of us here in Canada, they've signed a long-term deal with TNA. Now, caveat to that is TNA has never not addressed the Canadian audience.
Yeah, they've always paid attention to them.
They've been up to Canada. They are very tied in with. You guys have heard me talk about Destiny quite a bit. Going to Destiny shows and seeing some of the people from Impact was what got me back into Impact before it became TNA again. I hope this means they bring something huge to Toronto, to Canada. I mean, Toronto for myself, Canada in general, because we have to get it through other means. I think you guys have it on Access TV in the States, or some sort of affiliate, and the only way we could get it up here was with the TNA Plus app, because you can get the weekly shows and the pay-per-views and the smaller tier pay-per-views all in one package. But
yeah, exactly.
For people that aren't necessarily sure that they want to get into the pay-per-views right away, to have a free option that's going to get them to try it out. It used to be on Spike up here 15 years ago.
Yeah, forever and a day.
But it's a good inlet for them. I mean, I still have TNA Plus because I do think it's a good deal, and it's a pretty good deal on the pay-per-views as well. But if this is the inlet to get more TNA shows up here in Canada, it'll be awesome. But even if they're not in my backyard, I hope they still keep hitting bigger venues, get bigger crowds, and especially when you hear there's a grand exodus happening of their roster. Apparently Kushida's leaving, apparently Alexander is leaving, apparently Jade Chung is leaving, Trent Seven is leaving, Joe Hendry's leaving, Jordan Grace is leaving. So for them to try and grow at a time where they're losing so much is they've put a lot on their shoulders, and
yeah,
I don't want to pat them on the head and say little engine that could, but I hope they do good, because their shows are good. They're incredibly underrated. They're smaller. They look smaller because they are smaller. It's something different to watch. And it ties into another issue that I'm going to talk about later on. But there's one thing that TNA does that nobody else on my television does.
Hires people that are formerly canceled and says screw cancel culture?
That should be the more important point. But it's going to tie into something positive that we talk about in my next point. But yeah, TNA in general, keep going to bigger venues. And even if you don't fill them, try again and try again and try again. Because I would love to see you guys in big buildings, and I would really like to see you guys overtake AEW.
Yeah,
because you guys have been grinding 25 years versus 5 years, and you don't have big, bad, gigantic millionaire crackhead behind you. Anyways, I'm going to throw it over to you because that was a ramble. Next.
No, because it's funny how, you and I basically have the same ideas in mind for what we want to see, what we want to be achieved, what we want to happen.
Yeah.
And for me, the number 3, it's kind of a given, but a while ago I was against this, and then I really came around to this person a lot as time went on, and he really ingratiated himself with me and the fans, and that's John Cena. I want to see him break the record. I want to see him defeat Walter, or
really?
I want to see him get the 17 top Ric Flair, even though now Ric Flair says that's not the real record. The real record's like 21 or whatever, but still.
Whatever it is. It's whatever. This is the part of storytelling that I'm okay with. The record is whatever WWE tells you the record is.
Exactly, whatever it is. But how could they have their only John Cena not in his last year break said record? Like it seems like too much of a fantasy to not happen. So.
Oh yeah, and you know what it is? He'll hold it for like a month.
Yeah.
He'll hold it just to say he held it, and it'll be. I mean this respectfully, but it'll almost be ornamental.
Yeah, in a way, it will be, but it won't do anything to hurt Walter or whoever loses either, because the guy that beat you is the guy
the guy that beat you is the guy that we're now saying has held that title more than any other, and plus technically it would be a title that now people would shit a brick if he took the belt off Cody.
Yes, which I would say would happen less likely, but that would be the move I would go for, just more of a shock. Especially with Cody beating everybody, there's a story to tell there.
With no disrespect to Walter and not having anything to do with current storylines, I think it's the match I want to see. Like it's the two personalities that I want to see, because Cody made no bones about it. He went into WWE and said, "Give me the John Cena schedule."
Yeah, and he wants to also. He said that he wanted to face John Cena. So.
Oh yeah, but it would be the most. How can I say it? Like the most legitimate passing of the torch to somebody that wants exactly that torch. Exactly.
Yeah, you nailed it.
Because here's the thing. You get it, John Cena, and you know what? We can all say it with a laugh instead of a cry. One more time, John Cena wins, LOL. But, like, we said it when they first started doing the women's mid-card titles. Like, don't put it on a main eventer because that kind of defeats the purpose. But if you do, like if they had put it on Charlotte or something like that,
yeah.
Then whoever wins that mid-card title can say, okay, not only did I win a mid-card title that's basically brand new, but I beat Charlotte for it.
Exactly. Whoever that's one of the tops. That's
whoever
the point.
Beats John Cena for that title after he wins it gets to say, I beat John Cena, which is enough. You beat, because I guarantee you next... not this year coming, because this is going to be his last year, but when we get into 2026, John Cena is going in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to main event the Hall of Fame.
No doubt about it. It's going to happen.
So basically, whoever beats him is going to be able to say, I beat John Cena. I beat world record-breaking world champion John Cena. I beat world record-breaking world champion future Hall of Famer John
Cena, yeah. And it just keeps stacking like that. The man that
Can
such
you imagine,
and such, all the accolades.
I don't think it would go this way, but is the first name that came to mind. Imagine he wins and has a little run and he has all the pomp and circumstance of being the champion or whatever.
Yeah.
And then he drops it to Carmelo Hayes.
Yeah, exactly. He can do what Sting never did, and that's put somebody over.
Yeah. Well...
You could say he might have gotten Darby over, but he never put anybody over. Everybody got.
He could have laid down for Darby, and I'm not against that. Like if you want to win your last match, it's fine. They did it with the tag titles.
I'm not talking about the last match, but he didn't lose any match. His entire run, so everybody lost out essentially on any type of
I'll say though,
momentum.
like he also wasn't around a lot. Like
when you look back at all the matches, though, Sting really was a factor for a lot of it. Him and Darby did a lot of tag team matches, ended up with the tag team titles. And a lot of just
being in his corner and stuff.
Yeah.
But nothing, I'm sorry, I'm giving AEW the benefit of the doubt here, but Sting didn't do anything close to, like, peak era Cena wins LOL.
No, certainly not. No. No chance. But
I'm just thinking, like, he's going to do it, and it's going to be what it is, and the people that care and think it's nice will, like, he's going to come down the ramp at WrestleMania with, like, 25,000 Make-A-Wish kids or some ridiculous John Cena thing.
His own big thing, his own winged eagle moment. Like Cody always wanted that. I want what John wants to
for somebody that we didn't like for so long. I'm all the way around, and whatever he does in the last year, we know it's his last year. We know it's not going to linger and last. Like, give him his flowers, do it properly.
Yeah, and breaking down Cena is such a weird thing to begin with because of how he was handled. All the momentum behind him turned him into the, not even anti-hero, but you get my point there. Like, the anti.
He was like, and again, it's hard to get into the Vince McMahon conversation without going to other things, but he was probably the biggest symbol of Vince McMahon's stubbornness.
Absolutely.
Is that a fair thing? That's a fair thing to say, right?
Cena was not a failure, but in the fans' eyes and how the booking was handled, he was always like Vince's greatest failure because he never turned him heel. And Cena did that interview saying, like, oh no, I had full plans to do it, but then I realized and saw the Make-A-Wish stuff and I just couldn't go through with it. But they had plans.
I think that's why, like, it was goofy, right? But that whole, I keep going back to it was during COVID and all that shit, right? But, like, the Firefly Funhouse match was really cathartic for a lot of people that sat through the entire John Cena run.
Yeah.
And, like, it was an acknowledgement of, a lot of this was pretty cringe and pretty, in your face and whatever, and for him to come out as like NWO John Cena
with the hilarious
with the
and
pretend
appreciated.
That was a lot more respectful to the fans than that promo that he cut years before. It's like, I'm gonna rotate my ankle because so many people want me to do a heel turn. I'm like,
that was
stop.
so stupid and cringy, and that got memed into oblivion. Right.
And the thing about it is if you look back on it now, like, John Cena had a way of going with the cringy, knowing that it's cringy and kind of leaning into it.
He would cut it into his promos and
you can look back on it with a smirk and a smile, but at the time it was
he was the one that could say suffer and succotash, and it would make sense of because he was like a cartoon character anyways.
Well, but the thing is, like, he would say, like, where he had it over Roman Reigns is he would say something really cringy in a way that was like he was almost making fun of it as it was coming out of his mouth.
Yeah.
Roman Reigns, they did him dirty for a long time because they tried to make him Samoan Cena. But that's another story for another day. Yeah, I'm all for the guy that's tried to be the poster guy forever and literally in Cody's own words set the template for what he wants to be. I'm all for him. Give him his flowers. Give him every main event for a year. If I go to Chamber at the Skydome, have I mentioned that I'm going to Chamber in the Skydome, and John Cena's in the main event? I don't care if it's against Tozawa.
But it is funny
that would
how
be
you
really
can
fun
like somebody, right? Yeah, it would be fun. But isn't it funny how you can like somebody, but not want them to, be that character? And it's not a personal take. It's like, I don't hate Tom Cruise. I just hate the role he's playing this time, kind of thing. And that in wrestling is often kind of mixed up and conflated because one often equals the other. Because usually it is just that person turned up to 11 or whatnot.
Here's a weird comparison I'll give you, right?
Yeah.
Because this is me. I'm the comic book movie guy that doesn't read comic books. I have always it's absolutely true. I don't touch comic books, but I like comic book related movies. I saw Kraven, and I was kind of disappointed that it's not as shit as people said it was. It's not great, but it's not. I was expecting like a dumpster fire.
You were looking for bad good.
Yeah, I was looking for an episode of Dynamite, and I didn't get
good
it.
Bad. Yeah, you didn't get that.
But, no, one thing I'll always stick up for, and everybody tells me I'm crazy, which is absolutely fine, is people say that Jared Leto played a bad Joker in Suicide Squad. And I will twist that on its head a little bit And he's like, Jared Leto didn't play a bad Joker. He did a really good job at playing a version of the Joker that people didn't like.
Exactly.
And I think that
it wasn't bad.
That applies to John Cena more than you would think.
Yes, exactly. It wasn't... Because, again, the booking is what ingratiated the fans with him, with the U.S. title run of him, like, becoming a workhorse person, not just going in
trying
5 minutes.
His whole thing of I'm gonna make. Well, but that's the thing. Like when he started doing like the cell phone stuff. Oh, I'm the 5 moves of Doom guy. Maybe I should come up with a 6th move. Like when you can own it a little bit, and it's like immediately like, okay, he gets it. He's with us. And
finally, and after all that time,
he did the fucking lightning fist, and he tried to do like the worst springboard stunner in captivity.
Yeah, but he still did it for the fans. He tried, you know, and everyone was like, okay, I can get behind this because
I'm going to try and do something lucha because I'm definitely not lucha.
Yeah, and then we saw John, oh my God, his nose is broken in the ring, but he's there next week. And then we saw John, oh my God, his elbow is the size of his thigh, but he's there the next week. He's still wrestling, you know. And so all of these things added up. He was getting booked better, he was being handled better.
Here's the funny thing, though, right, is, how can I want to... The shoot versus real, right?
Yes.
Like, you see him come back from real injuries the following week and keep working. And it's like, holy fuck, dude! Like, take a break.
It made him a machine. It blurred that element.
Yeah, take a break, man. You can take a break. We see the size of your arm, but on the other side of the coin is you get him with a kayfabe injury, and he's back the next week, and everybody's like, well, that's just shit storytelling. Like, go home and convince us you're hurt.
I was there the next day, the Monday night after I think it was Backlash, but it was the night where Big Show threw John Cena into the spotlight.
Oh, God, yeah.
And the very next night, that's when Miz called him out for the first time, and Cena didn't come out. But at the end of the show, John Cena had to walk out on the ramp like, screw you, Big Show and Edge, I will beat you eventually. And he just stood there, like, shaking like he had Parkinson's. That was how he sold it. But, like, he still walked out. It's like, no, you'd be in a hospital bed still dying. So fans booed the shit out of it, rightfully so. And that's how it was ignored because of how it was treated.
But I think because of that, though, like, you've heard the stories of, like, what he's legitimately physically come back from. Like, I don't think he totally got the credit for the legitimate stuff that he came back from because he came back from fake stuff too quickly. Exactly. And that's kind of unfortunate.
And, anyways, I mean, you look at the Rumble, his return there, that's why people went nuts, because he had, like, 6 months left to return, realistically.
There's two things, and I didn't even like him at the time, right? But that one Rumble where he came back and it was like 6 months early, whatever, you watch him soak up the reaction, and it's genuine. The only thing I can really compare it to is just before COVID, when Edge made his return at the Rumble.
Yeah.
And it's just, I know
and Triple H gives him like the WTF look. It's all just perfect.
Yeah, and you've still got it pinned on your Twitter, don't you?
Yes, Edge's return. So
yeah, you do. So yeah,
I was there in person when he retired, so seeing him return live at the Rumble was a hell of a thing.
I was there in Toronto when Cena announced his retirement.
Yeah, see,
it's not happening
we
yet,
both had that, but we still both have that connection, that mindset of it, and it's funny how it stays in your mind.
Isn't that funny? Because Cena and Edge fought each other so much, and you saw Edge announce his retirement, and I saw Cena announce his retirement.
Exactly, and you can't think of one without the other, certainly.
Yeah. And think about how many times they fought in either Boston or Toronto. Or
no doubt about it. So what's your number 3, sir?
Number 3, and I'm gonna go back to TNA now because I kind of structured it that way. Because I said there's one thing the TNA does, AEW doesn't do it, WWE doesn't do it properly. I really want to see it in 2025. Cable companies be damned. Please, can we get some proper intergender wrestling on television?
Wow. And there's so many times that stories call for it, and it makes perfect sense. And we should have had
a lot of this stems from the rumors that we're going to get Rhea Ripley versus Dominic Mysterio. And
which is what it should be, yeah.
And if that's true, do it for real, though. If that's
not a gimmick bullshit where she hits him, but he just reverses her and she hurts herself kind of thing, yeah.
There's 2 examples, and keep in mind what I think of these various people, but in both scenarios, it wasn't like a female superstar and a male superstar. It was a female superstar and, hey, you get to be a punching bag because a girl beating up a guy is funny. Now, modern days, why is that funny? Because the women in WWE are fucking awesome. But, like, I'm sorry, Sasha Banks and Reggie, Becky Lynch and James Ellsworth.
Yes. Couldn't think of his name either.
Yeah. Now, the one thing I will say, the one thing where they got kind of close was when they did that weird mix tag on, I don't even remember the pay-per-view, but it was Rollins and Becky versus Corbin and Lacey Evans.
I was just going to bring that up when he dazed her. It was right after Money in the Bank, because I was there in Money in the Bank. It was that July pay-per-view, whatever, Great Balls of Fire or something.
I thought it was so, we could have had it. We could have had it, and so
that
many
people... That End of Days was so bad.
It got a huge... No, but... Okay, first of all, the End of Days is an awesome move.
Yes.
Too bad people don't give Corbin any credit, or that move would be seen as in a better light.
It's so funny. Once he got that finisher, he just turned into this. He won every week. Like, he lost every match, and he was only on NXT like once every 3 or 4 months. All of a sudden, he got that End of Days finish, and he was winning matches in like 10, 15 seconds every week. It was nuts.
Oh, yeah.
They put that over so hard.
The thing is, like, it's such a recoil type move, right? Because you go forward before you go backwards, and it got a huge pop, and everybody's like, "Oh my god, I can't believe all these people are popping for women getting beat up by men." And it's like, okay, do you want equality, or do you want to say that men are assholes?
Yeah,
or whatever?
do you want to stay like this the whole time?
It's the first time that women were shown as being badass enough to take something like that. Like, you wouldn't have necessarily... Oh, what's the most dramatic example I can think of? You wouldn't have Zelina Vega taking an F5 from Brock Lesnar.
No.
Like, you wouldn't do that. But Becky's a badass.
And like, the End of Days fit because they were facing each other. It was like a perfect move. Yeah,
but at the forefront of where Becky was at the time, when she was at her peak, when nobody could touch her.
Yeah, it fit because she was the man. So a man beating her up, she could take it after, kick out at some point.
And she took it head on, literally. And it's like, that could be so badass. Because they didn't win, did they?
I don't believe so. I know, because they lost that match. Yeah,
but it was the first time that it wasn't just like... I'm sorry, the Reggie thing, I know Reggie did like Cirque du Soleil and all that kind of thing, and that's his style anyway.
Yeah.
But all he did was jump around, and Sasha Banks pretended she could wrestle for 5 minutes. Now, the Ellsworth thing was more comedy, and Becky Lynch, like the kind of sarcasm that Becky Lynch has, and the kind of character that he was, there was a little bit more comedy to it. Reggie was just there to be a goof and get his ass kicked, and, oh, look, Sasha Banks beat up a boy. I'm like, come on now.
Yeah.
And TNA, I'm sorry.
They made him look like an idiot, and that was their intent the whole time, you know.
And I give TNA all the credit in the world because they've shown that you can do it, and they've showed you can do it on television, and it doesn't cost you anything. And, oh, you know, they can't do that, or they're really gonna go down the tubes. Well, they've been around for like 25 years.
Yeah, exactly. While this has already been a proven commodity, it's already worked. I mean, WWE adding mid-card titles, I would have rather seen them add an intergender title and had them actually make out a full-on division versus having mid-card for women on the main roster. I would have saved the mid-card just for NXT's North American title.
The caveat that has to go with it, it's like the caveat that goes with anything in wrestling. Anybody can do it. It's a Simon Miller thing. Like, anybody should be able to do anything in wrestling as long as both wrestlers are okay with it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So... obviously, there's going to be people in that roster because it's a diverse opinion. It's a hot topic always, right? There's going to be guys in that locker room that think it's wrong and they don't want to lay their hands on the ladies. And if they have the option to opt out of that, absolutely. Obviously, for the ladies, you know, there's various, you know, mental stuff that goes into that. The ladies that aren't comfortable.
But that's their choice.
But it should be treated as any other two people that don't necessarily want to work together. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I see your point.
There would be options where somebody's not comfortable with it, and if that person's not comfortable with it, then they don't do it. But that person that's not comfortable with it shouldn't get to tell other people that are into it.
Exactly.
Because I always said for a long time, if you want to build a bridge, because there was a time where we didn't have as many of the powerhouses like the Zarias and the Rhea Ripleys and the Bianca Belairs and all that, and they were smaller ladies like your I don't know,
the Bella size,
the Bella size, and you know, Vince had a type and all that kind of thing. I always thought, and we don't have the division anymore, but I always thought a good bridge to experiment with intergender wrestling would have been the ladies division and the cruiserweight division.
Oh yeah, no doubt
as a
about
start.
it.
Because then you don't have this big hulking brute coming down there. I'm gonna kick your ass, woman that's half my size.
Exactly.
Because there is a.
I'm gonna destroy you, tiny thing.
As much as there shouldn't be, because they're all actors at the end of the day. We're all working together to make the thing happen. There is an optics thing to something like, I don't know, Big Show taking on Alexa Bliss.
Yes, like, absolutely.
I'm not saying there's not an optics thing with that, but that optics thing exists mostly with people that don't realize wrestling is fake. I just hope it happens. TNA is proof of concept. Like, they really are. Jordan Grace held their world title.
They've done it over and over again. They've proven time and time again that the women can lead and do well. And
actually, I should say Jordan Grace has been their world champion and their internet champion.
Yeah, exactly. So.
I think she not only her, I can't think of the other name, though, because Jordan Grace is so at the forefront of...
Masha?
Maybe Masha? I was going to say they competed in Ultimate X as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if they've ever had one of the ladies as X Division champion. I think the only...
I don't recall. I don't want to say yes or no if I don't
Jordan Grace also took the men's world championship and defended it against other women as well.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Like it can go full circle. It can do whatever you want it to do. Just try it.
Exactly.
Get all the guys in a locker room. Get all the girls in a locker room. Hey, we want to try this. Who's in? Who's out? And sort of from the two locker rooms, you say, okay, you think you might work with so and so, or you might work with such and such, or like I don't know what would be a good example. Shawn Spears and Charlotte Flair.
Yeah,
are technical as hell, and I think they could have a fun match.
Absolutely, they could work very well together.
I always said, like, maybe you get like if he was still in the company, like Dean Ambrose and Rhea Ripley would be a kick-ass match.
That would be great, no doubt about it. They would. Like,
there would be so much, and there would be so much character in that as well. Like the way Sammy, if you look at Sami Callihan when he was facing Jordan Grace, and they leaned in so hard to the doesn't matter that I'm a woman, I can do it too. They made Sami Callihan into such a sexist asshole to make her victory that much better.
Exactly.
And I don't think you have to do that, but there's stuff you can play with there, because there's all the chirping in the real world about this. There's one group of people that will tell you you're an asshole if you do it, and there's another group of people that will say you're an asshole if you think you should do it. Like,
exactly.
You're fucked if you do, you're fucked if you don't, so you might as well try it.
Yeah, you can't win regardless. You might as well just go for it.
Anyways, what's your next one?
My number 2. This is going to sound a bit out there, but okay. I think Roman, his character is going to need to have some actual development here. Seth made a great point. Roman has not yet apologized. And I think we're going to get something along the lines of, like, especially before Mania, whether it's The Rock or not, whatever Roman's Mania plans are, I think he's going to have to apologize to the Usos and possibly even Seth. We'll see what comes of it. But my thought is that in some way, shape, or form, we're going to see those two reunite for the Shield. And I see a one-night-only Shield of, like, a Roman, Seth, and Jimmy kind of idea.
Okay.
Since, Jay will continue to go on doing his own thing, and I could see Jimmy still teaming with Roman, and that leading to, hey, we need Seth, and then they finally apologize and, patch up that old bitter chair shot.
I can see that. I think
I just want to see more layers from Roman this year. I want to see more character development, so that comes from that.
I think WWE thinks they gave you that already when he did the yeet.
Yes,
because that was his thing. But the thing with him and Rollins. Sorry, I'm tripping on my words. The thing about the story with him and Rollins is it would be the first thing in a long time that is past the bloodline.
Yes.
Like, before the bloodline. It would be refreshing in the, like, let's dig up some Shield lore and let's not make everything about blood relatives except for Sami Zayn and CM Punk, who we threw in at the last minute. Yeah.
And they have had other people be in their Shield units before. We've seen it with,
Kurt Angle.
They even had Kurt Angle, guest star in, and it worked very well. So I don't.
Now, granted, that was because people were sick,
but even still,
it was good. Him coming out with the flak jacket was the most dad.
Bring dad to work
ever.
Day, kind of thing. It was his big cheesy smile. They look so serious, and you got him just grinning over there, loving it. It was so perfect. And that's what I kind of think back to and think would be really awesome if we had that again. That moment of
Can you imagine?
You're not really the Shield.
Because Jay is the one that they've sort of separated off and said, okay, he's going to be his own man, right? Can you imagine they get the Shield back together? There's only two of them. It's like Tama Tonga, Tungaloa, and Jacob. Solo's fucked off somewhere because I want to make a group of three, right? Can you imagine Jimmy tries so hard to get Roman and Seth back together? And it's like, oh, come on, you guys were a team before even we were a team. They get the Shield back together, and on whatever the pay-per-view is, on the go-home show, Rollins and Reigns present Jimmy with his own flak jacket.
See?
It's
something
good.
Like that's perfect. I love the way you played off of mine and made it better, buddy.
The Shield line.
Yeah.
I know, I think it's good.
Line.
I do think
really
they've given it to
great.
you. I think they've done the mending as much as they're going to do with the Bloodline members because they've all
Shield members.
They've all kind of gone with the Bloodline. I mean, Jimmy, Jimmy, Jay, Sammy, Roman have all kind of gone to their own corners. They don't have to be a group.
Him. It's kind of like they said sorry without saying.
But you
sorry.
see, Sammy's still coming out on Raw with his Bloodline shirt on.
Yeah.
So it's we've all gone to our own corners, but we've all got each other's backs if we need it. If you need me, call me. You got my number. The Shield thing would be good because it would bring back a different. Fuck! It seems like a generation ago now. The Shield
but
thing.
it's something that's left over hanging.
But it would hook back a different generation of fans because the Shield was what 2014.
14, yeah, they broke up. So
yeah, the chair shot and all.
Uh-huh.
I think there's a million stories to mine there, and if I don't want to start up a whole new thing with the AEW fans, but if they got Moxley back, even for a night,
that was always the wild card. There.
I don't think Moxley comes back to WWE. But
No.
if Tony Khan pulled his head out of his ass and decided to do business for once. Even though, here's one. I'll give it to AEW, right?
What they could do there would be nuts.
No, but here's something I'll give to AEW, even though I don't like them. Imagine the Shield gets together for one night only to take on the Elite.
Oh yeah.
Because
there could have been they even kind of teased that with the New Day for a while. Remember they had the Elite and the New Day going back and forth, and then they even had that video game stream for Street Fighters, I think it was, where they took each other on.
Wasn't it some big charity thing that all of them did together?
Yeah.
But I mean,
and I was like, oh God, it's kind of happening. I wonder if we ever see it. And then we got nothing of it.
But the funny thing about that though is as much as the story would be Moxley coming back and joining the Shield, very quickly, because they're the two big names in the two respective companies, I think the story very quickly becomes Kenny Omega and Roman Reigns.
Naturally, it feels that.
Yeah. But yeah, no. Rollins, Roman, Shield, 2/3 of the Shield stuff. They're not shy about showing people that are in AEW now in their history packages anymore.
Yeah,
you saw the massive video package that they did for the history of the NXT Women's Championship, and everybody was in there. Sasha was in there. I think the Riot Squad was in there in some way, shape, or form. Mandy Rose was in there. They're not awkwardly cutting around people anymore. It's more of the Triple H, this is our history,
this
warts
is who
and all type
we worked
thing.
with, yeah.
All right, so there we go. I've branched into that nicely with talking about the women's division.
You did indeed. You made it make sense.
One thing that people have cried out for, and I don't think it's a blanket Band-Aid, do this and it's all of a sudden good again. A lot of people have talked about Evolution 2. Or them doing Evolution 2.
Yeah.
I'm going to expand on this slightly, because obviously it's going to involve all three brands. Because between all three brands, there's 7 women's championships now. every brand has a main title and a mid-card title, and there's a floating tag title, right?
And that's a lot.
There's a lot of titles. You can put together a proper card with matches that actually belong there and whatnot. Take that however you want. But also, it would be all three brands, but I want it to specifically be hosted by NXT.
Ooh.
And hosted by NXT, and SmackDown, Raw, and TNA are all coming to this NXT show. So I present to you the idea of NXT TakeOver Evolution.
I love it. So you have all these other companies coming in, kind of like the Wrestle Dream, but booked well and managed well, so it actually makes sense. Yes. Oh yeah, sign me up.
I would have a mix though. I would have maybe on Raw somebody is just getting their world title shot, and it's just a Raw person versus a Raw person. Maybe the SmackDown champion wants to take on the TNA champion. Maybe somebody from NXT wants to take on the SmackDown whatever. So do a little bit of like everybody's bringing their own matches to the card, and
would be great.
And do a couple that are like cross promoted or however you want to say it.
Yeah.
Because if you look at it as well, there's another women's championship and another tag team championship if you bring in TNA. I don't think you're going to represent every title, but I do think I want to represent all four of those rosters.
Yeah, there's no way you can represent every title, but you can represent every roster, and you can represent the best of the best. So, I mean, there's really a lot of things that could be done there to make that One of the matches, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the champions, one of the matches would have to be Raw versus SmackDown versus NXT versus TNA. Yeah.
Like Masha.
Something would have to happen.
Masha versus Zarya versus...
Like what they're doing now at Wrestle Dream, where they have their four-way with Ring of Honor, and
But I would say do something like...
but actually thought out and booked intelligently.
Yeah. Do maybe Stephanie Vacour versus Rosemary versus I don't know, versus one of the
Chelsea Green versus
Chelsea Green versus I don't know who's going to win. Lyra.
Lyra's a great choice. There we go.
Yeah. The only thing that you don't want to point out that TNA is the only one that doesn't in that scenario have a mid-card championship, so you want to be careful what you're not shining a light on at the same time.
Yeah.
But I think the Evolution idea is fine.
It works well.
I want it to be specific. Like, NXT has a great production right now. And we know that last time they did Evolution, it was good for what I've always said. I didn't particularly enjoy the show, but I'm happy that the show happened for what it was.
Yes,
which I think is a fair take. I think there were a lot of matches that left something to be desired.
I mean, it was probably one of the better shows of the year, too, that year. I remember grading-wise. But I think there was a lot of people, not us. We'll call it the way it is. But I think a lot of people that are doing reviewing wrestling as a living have to be in mind of if I rate this ladies show badly, am I going to be marked as sexist or whatever? Yeah, because at that time that was a very big point of contention. People were, why is this existing? I mean, you had people on the other show side going with no man shirts on to protest it. So,
well, it existed at the time because at the time they weren't having any women's matches on the Saudi show.
No, and we also weren't really giving divas a chance yet. All of that was just coming together. So,
but my thing is with that show, they did what they could. The attendance wasn't that great, and what NXT and TNA specifically have done is they've gotten really good at producing smaller, more intimate venue style shows.
Yeah, so that it works.
So that if you have to do that, and if it has to move to a smaller venue, they haven't really had to do that with Raw and SmackDown. The only time they've had to do that with Raw and SmackDown is during COVID when they put it in the PC, which doesn't count for anything.
Exactly.
So produce it like an NXT show. Invite the main roster, invite TNA. I don't know who else is out there. Are there any ladies that are specifically from Bloodsport or anything that want to come across? Hey, maybe some of the
ladies... You never
know,
there might be.
They've got their working relationship with Noah. Maybe there's something there. The Marigold. thing hasn't been talked about for a while, but like...
Yeah, no, but that's a serious thing,
We're doing this. Who wants to come? Like that kind
of thing.
Who
wants in, yeah.
Yeah.
We're letting you guys come to the slumber party. Well, who wants to join?
So yeah, I know it's not a brand new thing to suggest like, hey, let's do another Evolution, but I've got a little bit more of a specific idea of what it needs to look like.
Yeah, involving more companies, a more wider roster, and a bigger purpose. I think that's a great way to kind of have that still exist and pencil it in such a way where it's.
And I think an intimate venue might work too.
Yeah, no, it really feels like that.
Do it at the Hammerstein. Do it at the 2300.
Which we just saw AEW not handle well. I mean, that looked, and I hate saying it, but it really looked like
it looked pretty shindy. It looked pretty shindy.
The Progress Wrestling show, their little entrance set, not backed by billions of dollars, had a more impressive setup.
But even the I don't remember the name of the place when they had to move it out of St. Louis and into like Chesterfield. Remember the show that Randy Orton was on? Even that place was a little bit different and whatever.
Yeah, it looked like a bigger deal.
TNA is more comfortable in smaller venues. That's something where we get a lot from WWE. Hey, TNA, you've got some connections to some smaller venues. Why don't you throw in some suggestions? Like that's,
yeah. Why don't you guys?
I almost, not saying I don't want them to have a huge crowd. Obviously, if they sell out an arena with an Evolution show, that's fantastic. And it speaks to what WWE has done for all of their women's divisions. But if they can't do a nice little intimate venue like NXT has, like TNA is very good at, and benefit from each other's experiences in that regard. Because if you're used to running stadiums, maybe you don't necessarily know how to run a smaller venue.
Yeah, no, how can you?
Benefit from your partner's experience. Anyways.
Exactly. No, you're spot on there. My number one is, and it simply should be, as I said before, my favorite thing of the year was the vindication of CM Punk. I think 2025 is the year of Punk. Not only did we see him eventually become champion, but he is going to highlight one night of WrestleMania. And I think...
why do you and I think so much alike?
I think AJ Lee will be involved. I think that some way along the way, someone in a feud is going to mention her. Whether that leads to a match or not, I don't think so. I don't think she's going to be wrestling.
Didn't Michael Cole introduce him as AJ's husband at the press conference?
Yes.
Shout out to the weird press conference that was held in WWE headquarters hallway there.
Yeah, a buddy of mine reached out. He's like, I don't even know. He's like, what's going on there? I'm like, I'm really not sure. Triple H said he's going to open the doors to the headquarters. I don't know if he meant literally or figuratively, because he didn't know if it was like, hey, is this an interview thing or are they actually doing something? And what they did there, I'm kind of glad I didn't go. I think it looked like a mess, but
I think it's kind of cool though, because any other press conference they do, it's like, okay, we're announcing that WrestleMania is coming back to Toronto, so we'll do a press conference in Toronto. The Netflix thing is happening everywhere, right?
Exactly. So no place better than the headquarters.
So why not do it at their headquarters? Okay. Well, so I'm just basically going to double down because virtually you and I are on the same wavelength.
Nah. I figured we'd have something lined up.
Here's it's three options, and I'm being really selfish. Punk main events Mania, Punk versus Cody, or Punk main events WrestleMania versus Cody.
Yeah, I mean, and that could happen.
It's my petty thing. More or less, I want Punk to main event WrestleMania. My petty thing, and I'm gonna stick to it until we get it, because we have to get it.
Punk doesn't have to be heel either. Punk can just continue to be himself.
They just need to do that promo that they did the one time they came face to face.
Yep.
I'm more Punk than you are. Well, I'm more the American Dream than you are.
Mm-hmm.
But
and that's what you fight off of.
And it's not all about fuck TK, fuck AEW, but it is a little fuck TK and fuck AEW. You could
have
had
because
this.
he came back to wrestling after 7 years away for them to do that with him.
It's the simple, you could have had this. And
that's
I'm
my
gonna
point,
laugh.
yeah.
But here's the thing. You're so shit, you lost the biggest name your company had. I don't care, fight me, you'll be arguing with a wall. And you lost one of your creators because he knew WWE was a better option.
Yeah.
Punk deserves WrestleMania. Punk deserved WrestleMania 10 years ago when WWE fucked him.
Exactly.
I'm not afraid to say that WWE did something wrong. AEW fans, can you say the same?
Of course not. But we knew back then that, hey, this is, something that needs to change. And we knew that the landscape of wrestling was as bad as it was because of Vince and his yes men surrounding him.
Of course.
Having a different set of parameters now for booking and how it's done and how it's handled with Triple H being there, I mean, it does feel like, Christmas for a kid, because we are getting a lot of the things we want. They are listening to the fans finally. They are giving us the shows in the places that we want to see them and how they're happening. Maybe we only get a few matches, but, everything has been predictably good.
But here's the thing as well, right? Is as much as I want to make the AEW digs, because they're there and they're well-deserved, take that out of the equation for a second. Look at WWE right now. The Bloodline is sort of a fractured story now.
Yeah.
Judgment Day is kind of falling apart. What's going on in the women's division right now is awesome, but it's intentionally mid-card, right?
Yes.
The main characters of WWE are CM Punk and Cody Rhodes right now.
Yeah.
So take my bias out of it. Take the fact that I'm definitely a Punk guy. Take the fact that, I'm a recovered Cody guy, I guess. Like, he won me over eventually.
Yes.
And initially, I remember my take on Cody when he came back at WrestleMania was, like, if Cody's coming back to WWE, then he's full of shit and WWE are full of shit. Because he had talked so much shit about WWE and he'd gone so hard with AEW to go against WWE, and WWE was the ones that were getting pushed against. So it's like, if you let him back, then you're kind of getting dog-walked, and if you are coming back, then you talked a bunch of shit. I went from that take, which I don't think was entirely unfounded at the time, to 2.5 years later at WrestleMania. He's still not my guy, but I'm with him. And, it was a big, he's not, the thing is right now with Cody is he's still not my guy. Like, there's a lot of people in WWE that I'm tuning in to see more than him. Like, I would much rather see Finn Balor at the top of that pile. I don't know if he's, it is what it is. Like, I'd like to see some of the tag teams. I'd like to see some of the mid-carders take strides at the main event and whatever. But Cody is the guy. And in that way, he has absorbed, not in a negative way, but he has absorbed that Cena element of he's the guy, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, exactly. He's the one.
He's simultaneously the top of the card and existing above the card.
Exactly.
Which is exactly what I would have said about Cena, but in a much more negative way when I was referring to Cena, because nobody wanted it. And the majority of people want Cody. Now, are his opponents making it more interesting than he is right now? Yes.
Yeah,
Do my criticisms of, okay, come out, cry, hold the belt, remind everybody who my brother and my dad are, cry some more, leave, are those criticisms still there? Yes, but past that, he's the guy. Like, what am I supposed to say?
Exactly. And you know it as well as I do, and that's what it comes down to, is him being able to be that guy.
Because he's the guy, and because I'm a Punk guy, putting Punk and him in the same ring means Punk might be the guy. And
exactly.
Punk should be the guy. Punk should have been the guy 10 years ago.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Nothing could have changed that to begin with.
Anyway, so nicely we merged our first two topics and we merged our last two topics. I will take Punk main eventing WrestleMania, and I will take Punk and Cody wherever I can get it. But, I mean, the ideal is Punk and Cody fighting for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. Preferably the Winged Eagle.
Have. Yeah, no doubt. I think that's the biggest match they can have. No doubt about it. And, I mean, one of my bonus mentions maybe was just to bring up a conversation point with you is I hear rumblings all the time of them doing 6-man titles. I really don't want them to, but if they did add them, it could work, I'm sure. It's just how much are they going to dedicate to
the funny thing about that, and I've said it a bunch, when AEW did it, they made a lot of trios that were like a tag team and a singles person. There are, and at various points, there's more trios and men and women in WWE than tag teams, and then you just get like 2 of the trio become the tag team that goes for the tag belts. At this point, with the good faith that they've built with me right now, if they said they were going to do it, first of all, make it all 3 brands. Don't make 3 sets of trios championships. Jesus Christ. Yeah. Take the shot, but get a reading pretty quickly on whether it's working or not. At this point with WWE, and yes, I'm biased. I don't care. At this point, they've got me to the whatever you want to do, give it a shot.
Whatever you need, it's there for you. And that's the thing. Like, I think we are starting to get a lot more, and we're really starting to see what the hell's going on here.
I would rather see mixed tag titles myself. But
you and I both, yeah. But with those being mentioned, I'm like, we can go ahead and get that, something to it.
Actually, you know what? Maybe not a mixed tag title, but like once every couple of years, kind of like they did with the Mixed Match Challenge, but then they put it on social media. Have like a one night totally separate event that doesn't really tie into anything else. A one night fun mixed match. Tell the wrestlers in the locker room, all right, guys, this isn't canon. Partner up with whoever you want to partner up with. We're just going to do one show that's specifically just to be fun. And have it be a one-night thing, and that's it. And have it not have anything to do with canon, not having anything to do with, stories going forward. Treat it like a televised house show, and let it just be fun. I think you could do that. I don't think they could sustain mixed tag titles.
No.
Realistically.
That's why I like the mixed tag team challenge. Like, that could have been more if they let them actually fight each other, but... Yeah. I agree,
but I think they just put some weird, fun teams together, and that's why I say do a one-night thing that's not really connected to anything. I would like them to try shows, and I've never really known, do shows that are televised house shows that don't necessarily have to tie into anything, that aren't current canon. I don't know how you would do it, but you know how you can go to any house show and somebody who's typically a heel might be face for the night because they're in their town or whatever. Because it's not part of television, because it's not part of any story, because it can just exist on its own. I kind of wish they could do like a televised version of that, like maybe once a year. But I don't know that it would work.
That would be great. I mean, if they could find a way to make it work, it would be something else. That's for sure.
Braun Strowman is a lumberjack.
But you and I, basically, looking back through it, our lists are essentially the same. We've
a lot of it is like there's already good shit happening. Just keep doing good shit.
Exactly. But we also, I'm saying, have the same kind of hopes and wishes for the year, which usually lines up. And that's where I'll leave everybody off saying, I hope you enjoyed all the content we were able to create this year from WrestleMania onwards. 2025 is going to be a very big year for us both. We're going to keep pumping out as much and as consistently as we can some great content for you guys, and we'll be live a bunch more and doing things all over the place. It'll be a great time.
Spaz is live only because Jake knows how to go live.
That's right.
Anyways, Jake, tell them where to find you.
You can find me on YouTube. It's Jake Countdown Ended DeMarco, or you can find me on the Twitters at Countdown Ended. And we will be live, obviously, for the Raw after Netflix. So we'll see what happens there. Right after Netflix, we'll be live for that. So stay tuned, and we'll see what happens with the AEW World's End pay-per-view. If anybody, asks about covering it, happens. We'll see. But for the most part...
you asked me about it, and I think I was pretty honest with you. I'm about 50-50.
Yeah, it's not looking good. So nothing really dragging me in to see.
Yeah, this may be the last time you hear from us. I might put something out solo just to round out the year. I don't really know yet. I don't really know what else there is to say for the end of this year, because they actually did stuff at the end of this year. They didn't wait till January. Anyways.
Surprisingly.
Go check out Jake. If you haven't, for some of our live stream stuff, check out the audio feeds for the audio uploads of those live streams. You guys know where to find me, or you wouldn't be here. I've been Spaz. This has been Jake. This has been the last State of Wrestling for the year. This has been our 10 wishes for 2025. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation, keep all these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I will talk to each and every last one of you later, but for right now, me and Super Sexy Jake are tagging out. Bye, guys.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.